Hi, I'm Julie Bolter and I'm Chair of Examiners for Pearson Edexcel GCSE Mathematics qualifications. Pearson have recently successfully completed a trial involving almost 3,000 students sitting their Edexcel GCSE 9:1 Maths Set 1 specimen papers released in September 2015. The majority of students who sat the papers were in either Year 10 or Year 11, with a small number of Year 12 students taking Part 2, spanning the full ability range. The students who sat the papers were at different stages of readiness, with some not having been taught all of the content. We'd like to extend our thanks to all of the centres who took part in this trial. The trial was undertaken to find out more about how students will approach certain questions to enable Pearson to use this information to make further improvements to our approach to assessing the new GCSE and to provide extra support for centres in any specific areas needed. In this short video, I will highlight just a few key findings and areas where we think students may benefit from extra practice. But we have a full Chief Examiner report and individual paper reports available on the GCSE 9:1 Maths pages, providing more in-depth insight, which you can also find via the following web address. Despite the different levels of readiness as mentioned before, for the majority of the questions, students made reasonable attempts at the questions, with a significant number giving full and complete solutions. With the ramping of demand on the papers at both foundation and higher tiers, it was found that candidates struggled to answer the questions towards the end of the papers, possibly because this was content that had not yet been taught. As expected, performance was always far better on those questions which have featured regularly on the current GCSE Maths papers. These types of questions will continue to feature on the new GCSE 9:1 Maths papers, but the proportion of these will be less to allow for the new content and the skills to be assessed as part of the new GCSE 9:1 Maths specification. In questions where working is requested, fully correct answers that have no supporting working will gain no credit. There are a greater proportion of such questions on the new papers, so it shouldn't be assumed that a final correct answer without working will get the full marks attributed to that question. The general guidance that students should always show all of their working is therefore more pertinent. When explanations or conclusions are required, single word answers are usually insufficient. They need to be mathematically correct and frequently need to point to or include figures from working as evidence of the conclusion. Results from this trial highlight two broad areas which schools may need to focus on if they are not doing so already. The first is the new content at both tiers. The second is those multi-step problem type questions where candidates find some difficulty in choosing the route through to solution, even before embarking on that route. Exposure to questions relating to these two areas would be beneficial. The trial highlighted the need for good arithmetic skills and showed that even the highest ability students sometimes struggle with long multiplication. This is something we also see happening on the Legacy 2010 specification. With ratio, proportion and rates of change, much of the content in this section is not new. However, having a separate section in the specification is new. The result of this is that this part of the content has been given a higher proportion of the marks than in the current specification and will therefore be tested in greater depth. Candidates need to be more proficient in all aspects, but in particular speed, density and proportion. In geometry questions requiring a proof, or when reasons are to be given for each stage of working, it is important that full explanations be given. Whilst algebra has a greater weighting on the higher tier than on the foundation tier, all candidates need to be familiar with the basic algebraic processes. It was clear from questions on the trial that candidates shun away from using algebra to solve problems where this is an option. Practice on this type of question would also be beneficial to candidates. These are just a few points relating to content. For the full detail, please refer to the Chief and Principal Examiner reports found via the link at the end of this video. Pearson will now use data obtained from this trial to further improve the mock and live papers ahead of the 9-to-1 assessments from 2017, and to help them to provide further support for centres to help them prepare for the real exams in 2017. Alongside existing support for exam preparation, such as secure mock papers, Pearson are in the process of releasing 36 new GCSE Maths 9-to-1 practice test papers in 2016 to help Edexcel centres prepare their students for the new assessment. The trial findings will also be used to create a wave of extra support throughout 2016, such as exemplars, tiering guidance, and support with assessed problem solving and assessing reasoning. Make sure you stay up to date with all of the extra free support that becomes available by signing up at the Maths Emporium emails at this address.